All right. How is everyone doing today? So today I was kind of motivated to go ahead and just make a chess related video. It's been so long, like almost a year, and my roommates are out right now, so I had a nice area where I could record. And basically, I just kind of want to walk through how I generally think when I'm playing a chess game because a lot of my friends are getting into it. A lot of people at UCLA here, they're really interested, and I guess I just want to make a video for my own sake and everyone else's sake. So one of my friends graciously offered to play me. So I'm going to go ahead and take his challenge, and we're going to kind of just walk through all my moves and analyze the game afterward. So it would be a little embarrassing if I lost, but we're just going to hope that doesn't happen. Okay, so I'm going to open with pawn to e4. So my friend here, he's rated about 1200, which is a very, very solid rating, but it's one where if you have a good grasp on just like kind of general chess fundamentals and how to play well, right, you can beat people of this rating caliber. So my opponent responds pawn to e5, king's pawn opening, right? Obviously a good move. And here we're just going to bring out our kingside knight, bring our pawn, knight to f3. So this goes ahead and it attacks the e5 pawn, and it also just brings one of our pieces out. So in general, in the opening stage of chess, there's three main goals you really want to accomplish. Number one is you want to control the center. Number two is you want to develop your pieces. And number three is you want to castle. Now, these are, not things you necessarily do in order. There's always going to be exceptions to these rules, but these are the three main things you want to get done. So most of your, I don't know if there's a specific move number, but in general, most of your, let's just say, first 7 to 8 moves are going to be geared towards doing that, and maybe even longer. We'll find out in this game. So my opponent goes knight to c6. He's defending his pawn on e5. So I think I'm going to go ahead and bring our light square bishop out because develops another piece, gets us closer to castling. Excuse me. I have to decide what square I want to put it on, though. I think b5, the Roy Lopez, or the Spanish, as some of you might know it, is a good option. But I'm going to go ahead and play it to c4 here, which is called the Italian. Also a very, very good option. Brings our bishop out, eyes this f7 square, and I think this is going to be good. So our opponent plays bishop to c5. All right, just kind of mirroring us in a sense. So here is where we need to kind of think of a plan, right? Castling would be completely fine. Very common move. We could bring our queenside knight out. That would be fine too. But I'm thinking of how we can get kind of creative here. And I'm just going to go ahead and play the most common move in the position, which is pawn to c3, okay? Looks like a little bit of a strange move, right? Why are we pushing a pawn at this point? But, right, when we push this pawn, we're preparing to play our own pawn to d4, okay? And this is kind of our idea with this, and we can build up, we can do the first thing we talked about in our opening goals, right? We can build up a very nice pawn center. Now, our opponent, he knows this theory, okay? He's playing knight to f6, best move in the position, right? So, it attacks our pawn on e4, but we can still go ahead and play d4 if we want to. Now, I think from this game, I'm not going to do it just because the lines can get a little theory heavy. But I could. I'm kind of deciding what I want to do here. Okay, let's go for it. You know what? Let's play pawn to d4 and see what happens. So with this move, right, we're leaving our e4 pawn hanging, but we're attacking his bishop at the same time. Okay, we're attacking his bishop, we're attacking e5 pawn, so he's going to take it, right? He's going to go ahead and take it. And now, I think is where I'm going to do something a little funky, okay? So, couple options here white can do. Pawn takes d4, most natural move by far, right? Most natural move by far, just recapturing, reinforcing the center, right? But here's what I'm thinking, right? Given how quickly our opponent has played up to this point, this is a 15 plus 10 game, right? What does that mean? It means you get 15 minutes and you get 10 seconds extra for every move you make, right? So 15 minutes with a 10-second increment. Given how quickly he's played so far, I get the impression that he knows what he's doing here, right? So if we play pawn takes d4, the line generally continues. Black gives a bishop to b4 check, right? and we go ahead and block with one of our pieces, the lines get what we call pretty theoretical. There's a lot of kind of book-like, ideas on what both sides should do. The positions generally tend to be pretty equal. But I get the impression here that if I play this move that I'm thinking of, pawn to e5, it's going to throw our opponent off his track, right? So e5 is a very, very good move as well, right? Basically, our idea is here, right? Black just took our pawn, but we don't have to rush to take back, right? If we play pawn to e5, we're hitting his knight now, okay? So he cannot take our pawn or do anything like that because his knight's under attack, right? So now his knight's under attack, he needs to address that. Now the main move for black here, interesting looking move. Counterattack pawn to d5, okay? This is the main move for black, but it's a very hard move to find if you don't know what you're doing in the position, right? This is not a move you play unless you've seen it before, right? So my friend Ethan here, he's a good player, but I don't know if he's going to find this move, all right? And basically the point is, any other move he plays with his knight, let's say he moves his knight, I don't know, to e4 or to g4, right? Excuse me. Well, now if we go ahead and take back this pawn, it's a lot better because our pawn on e4 is no longer hanging, right? You look back here, when we take this pawn and he gives a check, our pawn on e4 is hanging. But now that we've played pawn to e5, this is no longer an issue, okay? So we'll see what he does here. He's taking a long think, like I suspected, right? And we'll see what he does. I'm thinking that maybe after he goes knight to e4, I might not even take in that case. I might play this move bishop to d5, hitting the knight again. This is what I'm looking at, right? So this is when, just because it's your opponent's move does not mean that you should stop calculating. Okay, and to my opponent's credit, to Ethan's credit, he finds the best move in the position, pawn to d5. Very, very good move by Ethan, okay? So what's the problem here, right? What's the problem? Why is this such a good move? And first of all, let me clarify that it's not a problem, right? This is still well-known lines. But white now has his bishop under attack, right? So the first thing we should consider is if we take this knight, right? What happens if we play pawn takes f6? Well, he's going to take our bishop. We can take the pawn on g7. And it looks good, right? Because black can no longer castle. But basically the problem is black just goes rook to g8. At some point, he's probably going to recollect this pawn, right? He has a very strong pawn center. He's ahead in development. And we've given up our very strong bishop. So this all is not very good for us. Let me just go ahead and say that right here. Okay. Another option, some of you may be shouting, en passant, right? If you don't know what en passant is, go ahead and Google it. But we can take this pawn. But you need to ask yourself, okay, you can't just play it just because it's a cool move. If black just takes back with his queen, we're still going to be down a pawn, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and play bishop to b5, main move in the position, all right? His knight is still under attack. We pin his knight to his king, all right? And we're going to, we're going to most likely take on d4 next move because black is going to move his knight, okay? So the main move for black here is knight to e4. We'll see if he finds this one. Once again, there's some other options for black, that he might consider, such as knight d7, knight g4. But knight to e4 is the best move, okay? We'll see if he finds it. Now, I will go ahead and admit right now, I do not know a ton about these lines, so we're going to be doing a lot of improvising in this game. But improvising is not a bad thing, okay? As long as improvising doesn't mean like you're doing your whole essay the night before it's due, right? Improvising is a lot of the time a good thing. So, yeah. And make sure to always hydrate during your chess games, especially when you're commentating. Very important to hydrate always, but yeah. If you're enjoying the video right now, go ahead and leave a like. I'm sorry if I'm not doing the best job explaining anything. Okay, he plays knight to e4, best move. Now, he is actually kind of threatening to take on c3, win a pawn, so we're going to take the pawn on d4. And I suspect he's going to play bishop to b4 check. Here, bishop b6 and bishop b4 are both fine moves. I tend to think bishop b6 is a little bit better. The reason why is it just keeps pressuring his d4 pawn. His d4 pawn can get a little weak for white sometimes. But, okay, bishop b4 is completely reasonable as well. So we'll see what he does. And after bishop b4, we're going to have to decide what... Okay, he plays bishop b6. Wow. I'm very impressed by the way my friend is playing right now. I have to say. I'm very, very impressed. Okay, so here we have a couple options. We can castle. We can do something else. We can play pawn to h3. right? Couple options on what we can do here. I'm going to go ahead and play knight to c3. Idea with this move, if black captures her knight, we take back, right? And we're basically capturing towards the center while protecting the c3 pawn. D4 pawn, excuse me. If black doesn't take, that's completely fine. We just develop the piece into the game. All is good. All is good. Yeah, my opponent is playing really well so far. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So, main move for black here, as far as I remember, is black should castle. I do know a little bit more about these lines because I've played them as black for quite a while. In general, once again, positions, chess is usually out of the opening, unless one side blunders, you're going to get an equalish position. But we'll see. There's a lot of ways that black can play this. But black should start by castling. It's a move that makes the most sense. He might play bishop to g4. He could do that. He takes our knight on c3. Okay, this is not a mistake or anything, but this is kind of what we wanted to see, right? Let's take back. Let's not really think about this too much. You notice I've spent a lot of time in the opening. A lot of chess players have this issue. They spend way too much time. They spend way too little time in the opening. Excuse me, right? And my advice regarding that is the opening is probably the most crucial part of the game. So you want to spend a lot of time because you can get a really good position on the opening. That'll be a game changer, right? Okay, I kind of like our position now, right? This little pawn chain we have here is very nice. His dark square bishop now is not a great piece, right? It's just kind of staring into his brick wall. But we need to do the last part of our thing we talked about earlier, right? We talked about king safety. We talked about controlling the center. We talked about development. Well, we have the center. We brought out some pieces. Let's get our king castled, right? It's not, major advice for all the young chess players out there. Get your king castled early in general. And okay, we're in an interesting middle game here. One of the ideas I'm thinking about is this. I'm already looking at this pawn. If we can somehow get, our queen here, reroute our bishop to c2. Queen d3, bishop c2. Ask yourself, what would we be threatening there? We'd be threatening checkmate on h7, right? And obviously he's going to deal with that threat, but if we can create some weaknesses near his king, then comes this bishop into the attack, then comes this knight into the attack. We have a lot going for us there. So this is kind of one of the ideas I'm thinking about. Maybe our opponent is going to play bishop f5 to stop that all from happening. Bishop to f5. I'm trying to draw the arrows, but it's tough. I don't have a mouse anymore. They don't work too well. So we'll see what our opponent does here. And yeah. Okay, bishop d7. Move I'm kind of happy to see, but all right, go ahead, pause the video right now after I ask this question, all right? What threat has black just created now that he's played bishop to d7? There's a threat. I don't know if my opponent sees it even, but there's a threat that black has created. Okay, so the answer to that question is knight takes e5. Knight takes e5 is now a threat in this position. What are you talking about, Ashton? Well, our bishop is under attack, and if our bishop takes his bishop, he's going to take back with his knight. What has happened in that exchange? Black has won a pawn, right? What if we don't take his bishop? What if we take his knight back? Well, then he takes our bishop. Black has won a pawn in that exchange. So what we need to do right here is we need to do something with our bishop. We need to either protect it, we need to retreat it, or we need to capture on c6. Now, immediately, I kind of rule out capturing on c6, just because it's a move that, like, it just gives up our kind of bishop for no reason. And I feel like our light squared bishop is going to be a really good piece in this position. And I actually think I've talked about that already a little bit. I'm considering this move bishop to g5. Seems interesting, right? We attack his queen. Our knight protects our bishop, attacking his queen. But I just don't know if there's a ton of point to it. Let's just say he moves his queen, like to e8. Do we really gain much there? I don't know how much I love our bishop being on g5. Once again, I'm thinking about that move I just talked about, queen to d3. Seems reasonable. I mean, one good thing about bishop g5 is I think black, a lot of his ideas here revolve around playing this move pawn to f6. And when we play bishop g5, we more or less actually stop pawn to f6. Because whenever he plays that, then his position gets really weakened. I'll cover that more after the game. But for now, I do need to decide what I want to do here. Because admittedly, I'm not completely sure. Okay, so one thing is I'm not going to play queen d3. Because queen d3, he has to move pawn to a6. I don't want to take, like I've said already. And if I have to retreat my bishop, once again, he has knight takes e5. I'll just do it after the game. Sorry. Okay. Really interesting. You know what? I think I'm just gonna bring my bishop back to d3. I really like the bishop on this diagonal, like I've talked about a little bit before. And now we're creating all kinds of threats. I think one idea we can already picture in our minds here is actually taking on h7. This is called the Greek gift sacrifice, okay? And the idea is that if black takes back, we go knight to g5 check. Let's just pretend black brings his king back to h8. And we have queen h5. Now, I don't think this line works quite yet. Okay, he plays h6 anyway, so we don't need to worry about that for now. Okay, I'm going to kind of telegraph my move here. Telegraphing my move basically means I'm gonna make it very clear what I want to do, but he's going to have to figure out how to stop it. So I'm thinking of just playing bishop c2 here. Bishop to c2, very simple idea, right? I want to play queen to d3 and create a checkmate battery. So we're just going to go ahead and do that, actually. What did I mention earlier, right? We want to, I talked about this like 4 moves ago. This is called, I guess, seen in advance. I want to create this threat of checkmate, right? So black actually has to be very careful to deal with this immediately, because if he does nothing, let's pretend black passes here. If we go queen d3, he actually has no easy way of stopping it. If he goes g6, then we take this pawn on h6, and there we're going to be completely winning. So black's best move here, I think, is knight to e7. Okay, knight to e7 should be black's best move. And see if you can think of why that is. Go ahead, pause the video if you need to. So the reason why knight e7 is the best move there is if I go queen d3 afterward, black should play this move bishop to f5. And there, I don't really want to trade these light squared bishops once again, because I feel like my light squared bishop is a very good piece. So I'm thinking after knight e7, I'm probably going to play this move knight to h4, actually, which with the specific idea to kind of stop what my opponent is doing. And notice that the h4 square is open because his knight has now cut off his queen from protecting that h4 square. So that is probably going to be my plan if he plays knight to e7. If he doesn't play knight to e7, I don't see another easy way for him to stop this strong attack I have going. Okay, he plays it. I have to say, Ethan is actually playing extraordinarily well. I'm very, very impressed. But okay, we're going to continue with our plan. We're going to play knight to h4 like I just talked about, right? So we're with this move, right, we're controlling the f5 square. So now, if we play queen to d3 and he puts a piece on f5, we simply take it. And also, I should mention, if he puts a piece on g6, we simply take it, because that's going to be another factor in this position. Yeah, I'm actually, I hate to say, I'm so impressed by the way my opponent is playing. Maybe 1200s are just a lot better than I give them credit for, though. I'm not sure. So yeah, next move is queen d3. This is what I love about chess, right? So when your opponent is playing good moves, right, do not become discouraged. You just need to keep kind of creating threats until the blunder comes, right? And my general feeling is that sooner or later, if I keep playing good moves, right, Ethan is going to crumble here sooner or later, okay? I hate to put it in such a blunt fashion, but I think this is going to be the case, right? So, let's see. Let's see what happens. I hope y'all are enjoying this video. I'm actually having a lot of fun making this. This is like reinvigorating my passion right here. So, if you are enjoying, leave a like, please. Leave a comment. Subscribe. And let me know what you want to see, I guess. I'm thinking about maybe making this a series, but I don't know. If I get less than like 80 views, I guess is reasonable. I don't like to be a huge views guy, but 80 views, it might be a little discouraging. I'm thinking maybe black's best move here is f5. This is what I'm thinking. f5 or f6. Because we're going to en passant it, or we're going to take either way. But after black takes back with the rook, and we go say like queen to d3, we have like a nice idea of giving a check here, but it's no longer going to be checkmate, right? Because black's going to move his king towards the f file somewhere, and I hope you can envision that. I know I'm giving like a lot of huge calculation lines here, but I hope I'm just trying to do a good job explaining it. I'm not always the best at that, but I'm just trying. But yeah, this knight h4 move I really like. It's posing a clear problem for black. That's why he's spending so much time here. Yeah, it's not an easy position for black, for sure. One really important thing to note is that if he decides to move his knight to attack our knight, we're not going to protect our knight. For example, let's say he goes knight there. We're going to play queen to d3, create checkmate there. Okay, bishop e8. Very, very passive move. Wow. Really? Really, Riley? Really? Okay, so we could continue with our plan of playing. I have to think here, but I'm going to talk through my thought process. We can continue with our plan of playing queen d3. What's his idea if we're playing queen d3? I think it's to go f5. We take en passant. Rook takes f6. Queen h7 check, and I think he wants king f7 there. The line I was just kind of talking about. It looks pretty good for us. If we don't find anything better, I think I'll just go for it, to be honest. I'm also looking at this move bishop takes h6 right here. The idea being pawn takes h6. I want to go queen g4 check. King f8. King h8, excuse me. I don't see a killer blow there. We can go queen h5. Actually, that might be a killer blow. I'm not going to lie. That could be a killer blow what I'm just looking at. Lot of really good options here, but you have to be careful to find the best one. Because queen d3 f5, he could stay in this game a lot longer than I want him to. Takes, rook takes f6. I don't see a clear-cut win there, right? But bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6, queen g4, king h8, queen h5, knight g8, queen f5. Looks like forced checkmate to me. And that whole line looks like more or less... Oh, but there's some problems there still. Bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6, queen g4, king h8, queen h5. I mean, first of all, there is king g7, but okay, there I think I have knight f5 winning. But I think the bigger problem is this move pawn to f5. Queen takes h6, king g8. Do I really not have anything there? Wow. Huh. This is really something. It's a very strong attack in any case. It really is. It's a very, very strong attack. That's why it's so tempting. But I also do feel a sense I need to stay disciplined as a chess player. Right? I need to go for the line that I know is best. I'm kind of just feeling like a queen g4 too. And go for neither. Let's just play queen g4. Queen g4 f5 though. Oh, knight takes f5. What am I talking about? I kind of do just like queen g4 here. Very, very simple. But I'm going to say it right now. I do think I may be missing a kill shot here. Maybe he just wanted queen d3, knight g6, actually, instead of everything I was talking about. Okay, bishop takes h6, pawn takes h6, queen g4, king h8, all forced. Oh, maybe he wants knight g6. Okay, I'm not taking on h6. I've decided, actually. We're going to go queen to g4. Okay, this is kind of called adaptation, right? We had an idea to play queen d3. He kind of created a plan against that idea. We're going to adapt, okay? I know some of you see my low time right now. You're beginning to panic. Don't worry about it. 10-second increment. When we have to play fast, we will. But yeah, my opponent is playing very well so far. Okay, here I'm creating a very obvious threat to play bishop takes h6, so he's probably going to go king h8. And there I do have to think of a plan of how I'm going to continue. Maybe just f4, f5. I don't know. Yeah, this is a tough game. Chess is a tough game. Tough game. Yeah, really. Okay, maybe I'm overhyping the game a little bit, but I do think Ethan's playing really well. Okay, G5. Wow, really, really, Riley. Okay, so it's clear what he wants. He wants bishop takes G5, pawn takes G5, queen takes G5, knight G6. That's what he wants. But what if I just go knight f5? I think I'm just. I mean, okay, so this is what I'm getting at, right? If you play good moves for long enough, your opponent's eventually going to crumble. And I think that's what my friend Ethan here just did. This looks horrendous for black. G5 is it's a very, very weakening move. I think what he did was he calculated this one line where it worked in his favor, right? And this is a problem a lot of youngsters have, right? They calculate one line they see works out for them, but they don't think about anything else their opponent might do. And I'm talking very cockily right now because I think this was a huge, huge mistake, and I think I'm going to win in probably less than 5 moves from here. And yeah, I mean, I shouldn't speak like this, but really, he has no defense now. And the point is, I'm attacking h6, right? Most importantly, all my pieces are pointed at his king, right? So he pins, goes ahead and pins me, but I just take this with check now, and it's not a problem. All right. He has to go king to h8. And okay, I can take the pawn on g5. It's a good option. I think queen to h5 is even better. Reason being, right, now I'm x-raying the king, okay? And if he plays king to g7, I take the pawn on g5, right, now with check. And I'm basically threatening to go knight takes f7, discover check. This was a really good game. I'm very happy. If this ends up becoming a series or something, I'm very happy this is the first game. But let's not set our expectations too high. Yeah, my opponent resigns. Good game, Ethan. Good game. Let me go ahead and hit him with the good game. Ignore what I just said. Okay, so we're not done with this video, right? First step, let's look at the game without an engine, right? So, can I pull up like an analysis board myself? There must be some type of way. Okay. Let's shout out to my guy Caleb here. He's probably going to be upset when he finds out this is a YouTube video. Okay, yeah, we can do it here without reviewing the game quite. Yeah, so I'm going to go through the opening. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6, d4. So this is the first moment I want to cover, right? After pawn takes d4. Well-known line, right? If I pull up the opening explorer, there is 3,145 games here, right? And in 1666 of them, pawn takes d4 was played. In 1100 of them, e5 was played. But basically, my feeling at this point was that he was more familiar with pawn takes d4 than he was with e5, which I think is absolutely true. But he managed to kind of figure things out anyways. So after pawn takes d4, what I guess the line that's a little bit worrying is if black gives a check, right? And no matter what way we block, basically, black can take the pawn on e4. So if we play knight c3, black can take the pawn on e4, taking advantage of the pin. If we play bishop to d2, black can take the pawn on e4, given the fact that his bishop is defended by his knight. Now, this is not the end of the world. There's a lot more lines there, but to be honest, white doesn't really get too much of an advantage. So I really like this move e5. And as you can see here, 1,192 games, and in nearly all of them, over 99% of them, black played pawn to d5. Very, very good move by Ethan here. Really any other move, and I think black is in pretty significant trouble. Let's say knight to g4. I mean, looks like most of you are playing castles, but I even think pawn takes d4 is a pretty significant advantage. I'm kind of curious if knight e4, yeah, bishop d5 looks like the move, right? So our opponent does play the best move, pawn to d5. We go bishop to b5, knight e4. As you can see at the side of your screen, all the main moves, pawn takes d4, bishop b6. Hopefully you can see that this is all somewhat intuitive. I should maybe cover that you can see, a lot of games here, nobody's really taken on f6. And if we go to this position right here, maybe it becomes like a little bit more clear why. But let's count the material first, right? We have a pawn and knight. Our opponent has a pawn and bishop. Okay, that's not a big deal. The bigger problem, though, is that this pawn, instead of being a really big strength, that it's on the 7th rank, it's kind of a weakness. It really is kind of a weakness. If we want to hold on to it, we have to play bishop to h6, and then he just goes queen to f6, and he's attacking our bishop, and it's really not good for us, right? Our king is very weak. This bishop is very strong. Just kind of take my word for it. If you want any further explanation why his position is not good, just go ahead and leave a comment. I'll get back to it for sure. But yeah, that's kind of why bishop b5 is the main move. Knight e4, c takes d4, bishop b6, and yeah, knight c3. And I think this is where Ethan made his first, I guess I'll say, mistake of the game when he took on c3. I think I said it's not a mistake, but it kind of is, right? Because basically here, we need to realize we're not threatening anything, right? If black castles, which is the best move, we take the knight on e4. Black takes the knight back on e4. He's hitting our knight, and when we move our knight somewhere, now black's going to take the pawn on d4 with one of his pieces. Let's just say, for the sake of it, the bishop. Any of 3 of the piece captures would be good. I think actually knight would even be better, hitting the bishop on b5. So this was probably Ethan's first real mistake. He maybe identified a threat that didn't exist, and he took on c3. Pawn takes c3, castles, castles. Good. Bishop d7. Once again, I said a move that I was a little bit happy to see. But it's really important to realize, refresh yourself. What was black's threat here? Black is threatening to take the pawn on e5. So let's say we made a random move. Let's say we passed, right? We played king h1. Black takes the pawn on e5. Now maybe you can visualize this a little bit better. That black is attacking the bishop on b5, right? So if we take the bishop on d7, he takes back with his knight. Do a quick count. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns. Black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns. So we lost a pawn there. And similarly, if we take the knight on e5, black takes our bishop on b5, we lost a pawn here as well. So, kind of happy with the move I played here, though. Bishop to d3, like rerouting move, right? Now, we're putting our bishop on a much more active diagonal, and like I said, we're already creating ideas of sacking on h7. So, once again, I always love doing this. Have black pass for a move, right? And see what our next move would be. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this line quite works here, this Greek gift thing. Because if we go queen h5 here, go ahead, pause your video, and see if you can find what black should do here. So black should play bishop f5, and unfortunately, we do not have checkmate on h7. Otherwise, we would have checkmate on h7. So this is the problem here. But okay, like it was scary enough that our opponent played h6, which isn't the bad move. It takes away our g5 square. But it gives us another move to do what we want. And we play bishop c2. And what I kind of want you guys to realize about this position is I did not do anything special this game, right? It was all kind of a one move leads to another type of ordeal, right? Everybody is capable of playing the game that I just played, right? You just kind of have to put your mind to it. Bishop c2, very obvious what my idea is. I just want to put my queen on d3 and give him checkmate. Now, here was where I was really impressed by Ethan because I felt like knight e7 was an incredible move he played. I really did, okay? And I said it before the move, I'm like, okay, knight e7 is the best move because it takes control of that 5 square. Simple idea. Now if I go queen d3, he goes bishop f5. And I asked myself, what was I doing, right? So it's really important in chess to not attach yourselves to ideas. I know 1,200, 1,100 rated players who would find bishop c2 with the idea to play queen d3. But after knight e7, they would fall into a panic and not know what to do, right? Or they would just play queen d3 anyways and end up in a bad position, right? Or not, let me not say bad, but not the ideal position they could go for, right? But we played this move knight h4. So this is a move I'm actually pretty proud of because notice that the square had been occupied by the queen beforehand. If we were to play knight h4, he would just take it. But now that he's played knight e7, it's no longer taken by the queen. We can play knight h4, takes control of really 2 very important squares. And like I mentioned in the game, if black plays a move like knight c8, well, now we just go queen d3. Threaten checkmate, right? If black plays a move like g5, we just go queen d3. It doesn't matter, right? Takes, checkmate. So knight h4, and I kind of got the sense that Ethan was going to, when you keep making good moves that create threats, this is my advice to all the players out there. When you keep making good moves that create threats, sooner or later your opponent's going to crumble, all right? Bishop e8 was okay, but after queen g4, right, what's our threat? Bishop takes h6, right? So I said during the game I think king h8 was the best move, and admittedly after king h8, I think white is better, but I don't see like some killer blow I can make, right? There's no GG on the spot, right? And let me remind you guys, the reason I didn't play queen d3 was here. I thought black could play f5. We could play en passant. Black would take back with the rook. Queen h7 check. King f7. And surprisingly here, despite the king being somewhat weak, we don't have any real follow-up. And this is kind of what you need in chess. You need foresight, you need calculation, right? A lot of people here would see, oh, my opponent just played this move, right? Like, let me just go queen d3 and I'm going to checkmate him. But you have to think about what your opponent wants with that move. And I actually don't know if Ethan wanted f5 or knight g6. He might have wanted this move instead, to be honest. But both, I guess, kind of take care of the threat that I created, right? He's going to take, and yeah, unfortunately, here we have actually a really good position too, but we don't checkmate him. So that was why I pivoted and played queen g4. Creates this threat to play bishop takes h6, right? And notice I can play this because it pins the pawn to the king, and we'd be threatening checkmate after that too. So Ethan should have played king h8 here, my friend Ethan the one here, but he didn't. So I mean, if he would have played this, I would have liked to see how the game continued. This would have been kind of interesting as well, because this would have represented how you need to kind of adapt to what happens, right? We're no longer going to be able to checkmate him by force here. I'll just say that straight up, right? We could keep trying to create threats if we want to. Like, if we really want to force it, we can do this. But you have to realize, like, he's going to find good moves too. And he's going to X-ray our queen right here after playing pawn f5. If we en passant, he takes our queen. So you need to realize things like that. And here I think I would have continued the attack, but patience is really key. I think I would have played f4. What's the idea of f4? f5, f6, right? So very importantly, he cannot play f5 because I think I just take here and takes, bishop takes, and our queen protects the bishop. But yeah, I think we still would have had a really good position here, and I could have kind of broken through with f5. Broken through. Sorry, gotta get my English very clear. But this is what I mean. When you keep making good moves that create threats, eventually your opponent's going to crack. And he cracked with g5, right? So I think when Ethan played g5, his idea was that if I play bishop takes g5, pawn takes g5, queen takes g5, he thought he had knight g6 and he was a genius. Why is knight g6 such a great move? Well, he hits our queen, right? He hits our queen. And ideally, we'd want to take here and take here, right? And this, first of all, I mean, it's honestly not that amazing, even though his king is super weak because we're down a piece. But this would be like our better scenario. But the problem is, when we take this knight, black takes our queen, and we just lose our queen. So here, we would have to spin the move. I mean, for starters, we're actually just forced to trade queens. Because if we drop back, say something like this, oh man, I did not mean to do that. Let me zoom out. How do I zoom out? Oh, I'm trying to, wow, this is annoying. I'm sorry about that, guys. Sorry. Okay. He takes our knight. He takes our knight is what he does. And his knight protects his queen. Something like this happens. So we would have been forced to trade queens. He would have taken back. We can now at this point decide what we want to do. But the point is, our attack has died because we no longer have a queen. And we only have 2 pawns for a piece. So this was a good calculation by Ethan. The problem is he needs to realize I'm not going to take on g5. Because I'm a decent chess player, and I'm able to see a couple moves ahead. So, after knight f5, bishop d7, right? So at this point, I actually kind of proclaimed that the game is over, which is a very aggressive statement, but it's kind of true, because I'm attacking h6, right? He has no way of protecting h6. Why? If he goes king to h7, knight takes e7, check, okay? I pick up his knight with check. I mean, that's not even the only winning line. I'm sure that knight takes h6 is winning as well, and so on and so forth. But there's that. And any other move, I just take this pawn, and when he loses this pawn, his whole king side collapses, right? So even though he calculated that line, as a good chess player, I expect Ethan to kind of think, okay, I should not push this pawn around my king because it's really, really dangerous. So the only option for black to not lose this pawn and basically not lose his whole king side is to take on f5. But if he takes on f5, we take back with the queen, and it's an unstoppable checkmate next move. There is not a single move he can play that stops checkmate. It is checkmate in one. Okay, so after knight f5, he played bishop d7. Can't say there was any better moves. We took on h6, king h8, and kind of a nice little last touch at the game. Queen takes g5 would be winning, but say he plays something like knight g6, right? And we're not winning immediately, I guess. Knight takes f7 would probably take care of business. Rook takes f7, queen takes g6. But it's not quite like game over, and maybe he has some even better ideas, right? Maybe he goes for some like magical, I don't know. But queen takes g5 would be pretty easily winning. But I think queen h5 is even nicer, right? Now we're immediately threatening knight takes f7. If he goes king g7, now we take this pawn, right? And okay, I'm beginning to realize that maybe queen h5 wasn't as cool as I thought, because actually he does have knight g6 here, and I'm still completely winning, but this kind of defeats the whole purpose. And actually, it would have been better if the king was on h8, because, like I said, I have this move. So forget what I said. Queen h5 was actually kind of stupid. I'm not sure why I thought I was so cool, frankly. But at the same time, actually, like bishop takes g5 and this checkmate would be basically unstoppable. So it really didn't make a difference. This actually still might have been the best move. With bishop takes g5, bishop f6 check next move would be unstoppable. So okay, we've kind of taken a look through the game ourselves. I'm just playing through it very quickly, seeing if there's anything I forgot to cover. I did go through things kind of fast. I'm sorry if I was like kind of unclear and being too exuberant. I don't know what to say exactly. But now I think it's a good time to bring the engine into the analysis. So my advice always is take a quick look by yourself. You don't have to go as in depth as what I just did, but like maybe spend 10 minutes thinking about, or 5 minutes thinking about what you could have done better. Then you pull out the engine, right? Let's see what the game review says. Let's see what mistakes we made. Let's see what mistakes he made. Okay, so we actually played a pretty decent game this time. 98.7 accuracy. It's really good. So I'm happy about that. Engine has anything to say, really. I think he probably just repeats for the most part. I didn't really focus on what mistakes Ethan made. I know I said g5 was a very clear mistake. I think I also said knight takes c3 was a mistake. So, bishop d7, I said I was happy to see. Yeah. Engine kind of likes a4. Makes a lot of sense. a4 actually creates a threat. Last question of video. Can someone pause the video and tell me what the threat is? So say black plays h6. We can take the knight now. And this bishop is now trapped. Bishop is now trapped on a b6. So this was probably why the engine likes a4 a lot. I didn't consider it enough. I think I was just thinking a4, what if he just plays a6? But this probably would have been similar to the game, just with the insertion of these two moves. But okay, yeah, h6, and bishop c2 is best. Knight h4 is best. Queen g4 is excellent. Engine selects queen d3. I'm wondering, what did they see after f5? My computer's a little slow, but what did they see here? Is it something like, I don't know. It must be en passant for starters, but... Oh, I forgot to turn on lines and evaluation. Oops. Yeah, pawn takes f6. I saw this. I thought it was really good for me, but unclear. Yeah, I would have played rook e1 too, but I don't like going for lines that I don't see a forced win in. So, okay, it was a very, very minuscule difference. As you can see, 3.58, 3.67. Yeah, and g5 was probably the biggest mistake. The engine only calls it an inaccuracy, but you see how much the eval jumps. I think it's just because black's position was really rough anyways. And okay, they actually say queen h5 is best. So that's good. All right, that was a pretty good game. So once again, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed. I am going to keep working hard to not only produce these videos, but get better at my explanations and try to be more beginner-friendly. Sometimes I talk way too fast. I go through lines way too quickly. I'm going to try to do better on that. So trust me, I'm going to rewatch this video. Hopefully it does well on YouTube. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. And until next time, I will see you guys later. So peace out.